Hello everyone, welcome to Tiny Glade. At the time I'm recording this, the game has just released about a few hours ago. Yesterday I downloaded the demo on Steam and thought it was so much fun. I didn't play too much of the demo. If you saw my post, those screenshots I posted were about all I worked on, so I'm still fairly new to everything in the game other than knowing some of the basic controls. The demo was very limited, so there's a lot of new stuff to work with here. It was just like a really super small little circle that you could build in. You pretty much only had space for one or two buildings if you were pretty space efficient. But now we've got this huge area that we can work with. We've got the water tools. We can add trees and fences and all kinds of new stuff. So we're gonna get right into it and just start working along. Right now I'm on I think it's the flowery map. So it's kind of like summer, spring based sort of. Lots of flowers, lots of pinks and purples and stuff. So that's what I'm going to be kind of playing on as I build some of these buildings. I got this first one, which is pretty simple. We're just got a green roof and some pink walls, and I'm really liking these sort of arched windows that we have here. These weren't in the demo, so these are new, and I really enjoy them. I think they match the flowery theme and this sort of colorful pastel sort of theme that we've got going on here really well. So just kind of adding those, just seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. I feel like this game really lets you sort of embrace the spirit of asymmetry in the idea of building. A lot of the times it's easy to get stuck in the idea of making everything symmetrical and making everything mathematically perfect, but in this game, you're kind of just free hand placing things all over the place, and you just kind of have to kind of rock with the idea of having a little bit of asymmetry. And I think I really enjoy that, just that sort of organic look to the buildings and everything like that. So I'm just kind of doing that. Not all these windows are going to be, placed perfectly in level with each other. One might be higher than the other, and some of these buildings, these like little cottages and stuff, have some pretty wacky interiors, so you could definitely get a good explanation for all of that if you think about how the interior could be. We got these flags here that weren't in the demo, so I'm just playing with those. I was thinking about putting it on the wall. I decided I'd put it on the road there. Just placing some windows and stuff like that. I'm already noticing that it seems like the auto detailing that it does, just placing props and stuff on the walls and things, seems like it's doing more than it did in the demo. It seems like there's more auto placement of props on the walls and things like that, which I really enjoy. I really like a lot of that stuff. I think the more little tiny things that we can get crammed in here, the better for me. Just placing down the second building here. We just got a little pathway going to it, and already there's a couple of things popping up. We got a little hay bale there. There's a little bird house there, and a little pot with a plant in it and stuff like that. I really love all this stuff that's just popping up randomly. It seems so easy in this game. They make it so easy to just, go and place whatever you want, and it just kind of fills in all the details, and you don't have to think too hard about things. You can just kind of relax and enjoy the atmosphere and just sort of paint what's going on inside of your head, and it'll just kind of fill in the details for you, which is really nice. It's something that I really think is needed in the sort of artistic gaming atmosphere. Something that's a little bit more chill, that a little bit more accessible. Right here, I'm using a little trick here where I just place one of these walls and I lower it down to just try to get like a little bit of a divider wall that, sort of like a little stone fence, I suppose. You can use them as like a garden fence too and things like that. So I've been using those just a little bit to just add a little bit of separation in between the little areas. You want to try to get a little bit of detailing going in between all the buildings as much as possible. Since the game only adds detailing to the sides of walls and things like that, and you can't really place props manually, which I would love to see actually, if we could get that at some point in an update or something where we can place some of these props manually that sort of auto-populate on the walls. I love that they auto-populate. I think that's great. But I would also love to be able to have a little library that I can go through where I can manually place some of these props down if I feel like it. And I'm just slowly going through and just seeing what I can add, and maybe do a little archway there. That maybe be kind of interesting, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll add a tree here, tree there, perhaps. change up the colors on the roof, change up the colors on the walls. You know, there's all kinds of options that you can do in this game, and so really nice to just be able to play around and be creative and be artistic and just see if you can come up with something that looks really nice. I think that looks pretty nice right there too. Got the purple roof and the blue walls, and you know, now that we got a pink building and a blue building and a purple roof and a green roof, you know, this place is looking really colorful and nice, and I think it really accents the flowers really nicely and everything. So I really enjoy it. Actually, before I started recording, I did this map up a little bit. I just made it look a little bit of a hill over here. Tried to blend the hill as best as possible. Made a couple ponds, and like a little bit of what I tried to do was a river, but you can't really do rivers per se because you can't control what's outside of the play space. So you can't do a true river, but you can kind of, you know, make an implied river, I suppose, by making like a long little body of water there. The controls in this game feel super smooth. It seems like it's just really easy to just kind of get ideas down and get a little building down. You almost just comes naturally. It's like you're just kind of messing around with shapes and colors and stuff, and then all of a sudden you've got like a building that just looks pretty nice and looks like something that you wanted. Or maybe it's even surprises you. It's like you weren't even going for something that looks exactly like that, but all of a sudden you've got something that you really like, and you're like, hey, this is great. This is cool. I really like this. And so, you know, there's kind of this give and take between, you know, being able to plan something out and easily execute it, and then there's also parts where it's like sometimes you don't plan it out. Sometimes you just place a couple shapes down and you're like, hey, that's surprising. I really like that. And I think that's really nice. You know, there's an element of spontaneity, I suppose, to this that I think I really like. Like for here, for instance, with the roof or with the windows, I did all of the different windows on different levels. And at first, I didn't mean to do that. And then I saw that they were on different levels, and I was like, hey, that looks kind of nice. Maybe I'll accentuate that even more and bring that top one up to an even higher level. And, you know, it's just a little bit of that asymmetry, I suppose. You know, it is symmetrical, but then at the same time, it's not symmetrical. It's there's sort of a push and pull to sort of the organic architecture that you can pull off in this game. I love the chimneys that you can have in here. I love that you can change the height and everything of them. You can also put them on the ground, so you don't have to put them on the roof. You can attach them to the ground as well, which I really like. I like the modularity of everything in this game. This game doesn't, at least right now, in the early stages of me playing this game, it doesn't really leave me wanting for much. Like I said, I think it would be really awesome if I could place props manually in the game, but in the same time, you know, it's like, I don't really mind it because the procedural generation of the props just works really well in the first place. So there's not really much for me to want, I suppose. You know, it's like if they never added that to the game, I wouldn't really mind all that much. I still think it's a really good game regardless. I love that you can mouse over the flowers twice. So you can do it once and it'll do like some short flowers. And then if you mouse over it again, you'll get longer flowers. And so, you know, you can sort of blend that if you want. You can have like some lighter flowers on the outskirts, and then you can have some heavier flowers in the middle, or you can just do what I'm doing and just go for the heavy flowers because I think it looks nice. And it matches the theme of this build, and it fills up space and makes it look all nice and intertwined with nature, which I think is really nice. You know, you have the vines like going up these walls and things like that, and all these little elements that just help intertwine all of your builds with the natural environment, which I think is a really big part of what I enjoy about building is getting my buildings intertwined with the natural environment. And so the fact that this game does that automatically, and the fact that I don't even have to think about it, it just does it for me is really nice for me. I think that's a really nice part about this game, which I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, you know, because I'm kind of just saying the same things but in different manners, I suppose. But it really is true, you know. This game in an all-encompassing way really does just sort of allow yourself to be creative and allow yourself to just sort of roam free artistically and place whatever you want to place, and the game will just fill in the details for you. And it almost feels sort of like you're doodling in a way, you know. You're just kind of putting things down and sort of throwing out ideas, and it's not serious, you know. If you mess up, it's easy to take it back, you know, and if you want to change something, it's easy to change it. You know, sometimes, you know, I make City Skylines videos, and you make something in City Skylines, and sometimes you're like, man, you know, if I wanted to change this, I'd have to delete a whole bunch of stuff. That's going to take me 10 minutes, and then I'm going to have to redo it, and I'm going to have to be building for 2 more hours. And it's like, in this game, you know, if you mess something up, you're like, okay, hold on, let me just delete this real quick. It's going to take me, you know, 7.5 seconds to fix this. So there's not as much investment, I suppose. There's not as much long-term or short-term investment in the way that you can just sort of build what you want to build. That's part of the reason, you know, why I never really got into detailing in City Skylines 1. I suppose just because I didn't get into the game early enough. And so it was one of those things where I was kind of intimidated to get into the game, because it was like, oh, I'm going to have to download like 200 mods, and I don't know how any of these mods work, and I don't know what's going on. And, you know, I like watching, you know, these YouTubers, but I just don't really think I would be able to figure it all out. And you know, luckily, you know, I got City Skylines 2 when it released, and I kind of just like learned as the mods released, and sort of got into a good groove by the time everything was set up. But you know, there is that sort of aspect to it about games like City Skylines, where you have to invest a lot of time and you have to invest a lot of effort into getting to a point where you can be creatively free with the game. Whereas in this game, you know, it's built from the ground up for creative freedom, and that's what it's built for. And so you can just do that right off the bat without any investment, and I think that's really nice. Already this place is looking really nice. I really love the green roofs on the building over there, with the spire, the yellow spire, and sort of the red base. I think that's a really pretty building there, and it really accents the rest of the buildings. You know, they're all unique in their own way, and they have different colors, and from a certain perspective you might think, oh, all these buildings are all different colors, you know, like how could they ever go together? But it goes back to that sort of idea of asymmetry, you know, where maybe they don't go together, but they still look good together. So does it really matter in the end? Here I was just playing around with this spire here. It took me a second to figure out, you know, how I wanted to do this. I thought it might have looked cool to do like a spire hanging off of the wall there. You know, because I've seen that in like fantasy art and stuff like that. You know, you have like this spire hanging off the side of a building or something like that, and it looks pretty cool. But at the same time, I just couldn't really get over it in my head, where I was just like, man, it feels like this thing's about to fall off the side of this wall. I can't imagine this actually happening in real life. So I think I build another little building that sort of supports that spire there. I'm here in a moment once I figure out what I want to do. Yeah, here we go. And I think this building turned out really nice in the end, so I have no regrets about anything I did with this building. That actually just fits in perfectly, basically, you know. It's like, oh, I was having issues with the spire, and just let's place another block here, you know, 2 or 3 mouse clicks, and I'm like, all of a sudden, you're like, oh, okay, this fits perfectly now. And that's sort of the idea that I get from this game, is that it's just really easy to put things together, and it's really easy to be creative. So on this one, we're doing more of the arched windows. Really enjoying these arched windows for the flowery theme. It almost feels like some sort of fantasy, maybe some sort of, you know, elven architecture village or something like that, with all the arched windows and the colorful sort of roofs and stuff that arch inward, I suppose. I'm sure there's probably a term for it, like architecturally, but I can't think of the word for it. But sort of like on that spire on the green building there, how it sort of arches inward there. And that's like a very particular style that I feel like you see in a lot of fantasy architecture, that just was very reminiscent of a lot of things that I've seen. And here, see all those little props just sort of plopping in all of a sudden, you know, no thoughts necessary, just placing my windows, and the game makes it pretty for me. I'm just experimenting with doing some double windows. This is supposed to be like the keep, I suppose, or the sort of main manor of the village, per se. Now, I know it's not a castle by any means, but it is kind of the largest building in the town, and it's centrally located in the town, so I would consider this, you know, some sort of keep or some sort of manor or something like that, you know, that the leader, I suppose, of the village is, whoever that may be, whatever their title may be. Placing some flags, you know. I like placing these little flags, and that spire is kind of a perfect spot to put a little flag at the top, especially if this is going to be the governing building of the town. Of course, placing more chimneys because they just add so much to the build. Just a little bit of extra visual interest, you know. Getting some more of these little lanterns here, just lining the streets, making it all nice and cozy, and you know, making sure people can see when they're walking around at night. And make sure, you know, nobody's gonna trip over something if they are walking around late at night. Is there something about the smoothness of the controls in this game where it's like there's not really a whole lot of snapping. There is some snapping sometimes, but still there's not really a whole lot of snapping, but at the same time it's so easy to just nail down the shape that you want whenever you're drawing out like these little walls or things like that. Now that might have to do with the fact that, you know, this game is just kind of inexact in a way, in the way that you build organically, and so it's not like if the wall that I placed was just a little bit off, I was gonna, you know, lose my mind and be like, oh my gosh, I gotta fix this right now, you know. So maybe it's halfway between a product of the style of the build and then also just, you know, the ease of controls. But there is a very smooth and satisfying feeling to the controls of this game, of placing down fences and placing down walls and things like that, that just makes it really easy to just relax and kind of build at your own pace and just, you know, enjoy your time on the game. And already this town center is looking super nice. We've got a whole bunch of different paths going in all different directions. We got, you know, 4 different buildings here that are all sort of distinct in their own color schemes and their own architecture and things like that. And we got a lot of little flowers and some trees sprouting up and everything. And so it's all just starting to really come together in this main center over here. I'm really enjoying this a lot. And these little walls are just the perfect little divider for putting in the flower patches. I just really enjoy doing that. I do that a lot over the course of this entire build. Just make all the flower patches, and I actually made a little doorway here. I was thinking maybe a doorway wouldn't be too bad there, you know? So I think I try it out, but then I might just get rid of it because it makes like a really fat doorway, which I thought looked kind of awkward. I wouldn't have mind like a skinny doorway, but I think that would have been a little bit more proportional, I suppose, the word I'm going for. There's more fences, you know. I like just adding a little bit of clutter on builds like these. You know, sometimes, you know, stylistically, it just depends on what you're building. Sometimes you want to have, you know, wide open spaces, and sometimes you want to have just a bit of clutter. Clutter isn't always bad, you know. I think clutter gets a bad rep sometimes. You know, if you do it right, having sort of a maximalist approach to design can sometimes be really nice and cozy. I thought I'd do like this little awkward building here, and I was like, oh, I can do like a little window like on the corner there, which just kind of gives it like a little awkward look to it, and it's just gonna be like a little shed, you know, out in the back or something like that. I'm not sure what this is, but it's just a little building out in the corner of the town. So I figured it maybe give it a little bit of character and just let it sit awkwardly out there with its little strange window on the corner. I really like how that one turned out. That's actually one of my favorite buildings, even though it's just super small and out of the way. Actually, I wanted to add flowers there, and then I got rid of all my props, and I was like, man, what the heck? That's like kind of a push and pull. It's like, I want flowers, but I also want props. It's like I gotta like figure out where the best places to put flowers are so my props don't go away. Because, you know, you got that little what is it, like a wheelbarrow, and it's got like little flowers and random things in it, and a barrel and stuff like that. It's like, I like that stuff. I want to keep it. So need to make sure I don't, put stuff over it. Just taking a little bit of an aerial view of the whole place, sort of figuring out where I want to move forward next. And this place is looking super, super pretty, super nice. Decide, all right, I'm going to build on this lake, and I'm going to try something. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to build a house that's on stilts. And I think I'd try to switch it to wood here. I wasn't thinking about any of these buildings being wood earlier. I forgot that there was wood in the full version, because unless I'm mistaken, because I didn't play that much of the demo, I don't think that the wood texture was in the demo. It might have been, I don't know. But I was like, okay, I want to make a house on stilts. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give a little balcony. Maybe this is like the fisherman or something like that, and it'd be nice. You just go out on your balcony and you can fish, and it's almost like working from home. It's like I guess kind of everybody worked from home. In a village like this, they usually had their shop, right next to their living quarters. So there wasn't a whole lot of commuting whenever your village is like 500 square feet, or well, 500 square feet is small, but you know what I mean. Already, just all these little props popping up, making the place look lively. Place my window. Sometimes when you place a window, it gives a little prop on the window too. Like that one had like some greenery on it. That was kind of nice. I like that. Sometimes you get what are the words? Oh, shutters. Yeah, sometimes you get shutters on the windows, which I really like. Like if you do a double window, sometimes it'll give you like one shutter will be like sort of halfway open, halfway closed, and things like that. And you see there, if I put the roof in just the right spot, I get like a little bird's nest, which I think is great. I love all the little details. Love all that stuff. It's really nice. And now it's like, at this point, I'm just trying to think about, okay, less is more, less is more. Where can I put things where it's most impactful and not totally, make all of these buildings, super maximalistic? How can I make things as impactful as possible while adding as least as possible, I suppose. So I'm trying to think about that, while I'm building these things, and I had a little back door as well for it. For the house, and I really like these little doors that you can add when you have the balconies. You can only add them when you have a foundation. Otherwise, as far as I know, otherwise the only way you can add a door is by adding a path. But I really like these doors that you can add to the balconies. I like that they're square shaped instead of circular shaped. And I like the size of them and everything like that, and the texture that's being used on it. And so, it's sometimes I guess you gotta go for the balcony if you want to get that square door, I suppose. Yeah, just experimenting with maybe I'll do one of the roofs in brown and one of the roofs in green. That looks kind of nice, Maybe I'll do a yellow there to go with the green. I think yellow and green go pretty good together, and then the brown and white. I think that's looking quite nice, quite asymmetrical, I suppose. Here I was thinking about adding a window, and it's kind of difficult because it's like it wants to add a door at the same time, because the doors come from the windows, and I figured it out eventually. It's not like exactly how I would have wanted it. I would have wanted it a little bit lower, but it's fine how it is. Okay, I'm just drawing out another building, maybe I'll make a long, sort of skinny one this time. Kind of just keep the shapes and sizes a little bit varied, Maybe I'll make some more simple ones and some more complicated ones here and there. It just depends. I'm trying to give as much variety as possible, while also maintaining a little bit of similarities, so give a general theme to the town. I do a little double on there, double on the less wide sides, I suppose. The top and bottom, you could say. Like, okay, it's time for a chimney. Every building's got to get a chimney. You know, everybody's got to cook, so we gotta get a chimney. It's like, there it is, right on the corner there on the wall. Perfect. And not every chimney needs to go on the roof. Sometimes a chimney can just go on the side there, and it looks perfect. Looks great. I don't regret that at all. I think that looks awesome. There's more fences. Fences are super easy to draw out, super nice and convenient. They look great. Everything in this game looks great. Everything in this game is super cozy, super nice. Can't remember if I recolor this building. It's the exact same color scheme as the main house, so I'm wondering if I change it up. It doesn't need to be changed up, you know, it doesn't have to be a different color scheme. Can't remember if I did that or not. I do more sort of stone walls here to break apart some of the paths. I like just having little fences and little stone walls that line the paths and break everything into sections, I suppose. Get some more flowers going there. Try to get as many flowers as I can into this build. You know, the whole idea of this whole map is it's a flower theme, so you gotta add as many flowers as you can, right? And I like how you can draw the path straight through the flowers and it just cuts through. You know, you got little flowers on one side, little flowers on the other side. Super nice and organic. Here I think I try to fix this. I just get a little bit of that path erased and bam, there you go. It's really convenient how the eraser is filtered based off of what you want to erase. It would be really annoying if the eraser wasn't filtered and you tried to erase one thing and all of a sudden like you erased everything in one spot. So it's really convenient that that's filtered and everything like it is. I'm just kind of going through in layers at this point. I've gotten used to sort of what's available to me so far that I'm just like, okay, have I added a chimney? Have I added maybe I could add a flag somewhere. Let's see if there's any spot where a flag looks nice, you know. And so you kind of go for your basic shape and then you go for your colors, go for your windows. Sometimes you want the square windows, sometimes you want the arched windows. It just depends. What sort of dormers are you going to add, you know? But, you know, there's sort of a list of questions that you ask yourself every time you make a building that sort of lead to the completion of a building. And, you know, once you've gone through all those questions, you've gotten down on the list, you're like, okay, well, I've added as much as I can, or at least as much as I can think of. Perhaps my creativity is limited, but, you know, I think that this is literally the first map that I've played since I got the full version, and I think I made 3 different maps. I shared 2 of them on my YouTube community post, and then the other one was just like, it was like the first thing I ever loaded into, and it wasn't really, you know, very impressive, so I didn't share it. It was just like a one little house. So, you know, I'm still very new to this game. There are probably a lot of different techniques and tips and tricks and things like that I'm missing at this point that hopefully I can absorb through watching some YouTube videos later on. Maybe I can get some tips and tricks and make some cool stuff in the future. I really like this. Just this like sort of shorter tower. You know, it's not super tall. It almost just sort of serves to make the roof line a little bit more interesting. Because, you know, you're never going to really be seeing it from the back anyways, you know, because that's the very back of the map. So, and I guess you could, but for the most part, it's kind of going to be kind of a situation where you really only want to think about it from the front, I suppose, because that's sort of part of the money shot, I suppose, that you're going for. That's something that I think about a lot when I'm playing games like this, you know, especially City Skylines too. Whenever I'm making videos, City Skylines videos, I'm like, okay, I'm always thinking about like, where is this build gonna look the best from? What angle is this build gonna look for the best from? And then you have to kind of design the build around that sort of angle that you want to look the best. I've seen other YouTubers talk about it. I've seen any of you have ever seen I think his name is Silverette videos. He has Planet Coaster videos. And I remember he was talking about that as well, how he would figure out certain areas in his build where, you know, he wanted the build to look the best from. That's where he wanted to view the build from. and he would always reference what he was building based off of those views that he predetermined, you know, earlier on. And I really resonate with that sort of strategy of just like picking out which specific angle you really like the base the best from, or I guess just the build. I don't know why I called it a base, but where you like to build the best from, and then just basing all of your judgments off of that angle, I suppose. Here I'm just kind of experimenting with some of the color schemes. I think the blue and red was a little bit too much contrast for me, so I switch it up. Although, you know, now that I'm looking at it now while I'm recording the vocals, the blue and red looks alright. I totally could have kept that. But I think I go for something a little bit more muted. We go for a purple, and then I think I go for like I think I get switched to the light pink, perhaps. Is that what I do? Or maybe I stick with the red. Nope, looks like I go for the pink, unless I change it again. We'll see. I'm thinking, nope. I think that's whenever I figured out I could recolor the glass too. I didn't realize that I could recolor the windows. I love it whenever you make these like pink and purple houses and stuff, and then they just match perfectly with the flowers, because all the flowers are pink and purple as well. And you're like, oh, just perfect, you know. It's like this whole town is designed around having flowers, you know. It's like spring is really go time for the people of this town, you know. Summer, fall, and winter, you know, probably aren't quite as glorious, you know, unless this is just some magical land where it's nice and flowery like this all the time, or at least most of the time of the year, which, you know, I'd like to believe that. I'm just doing, you know, a couple of these buildings that are on the outskirts of the town. So I'm just kind of filling out some of these little areas. We're not going to be doing too many more of these buildings, maybe like 4 or 5 more. So I guess there's a decent amount of buildings coming up. But you know, just sort of experimenting with things like maybe I'll just do like a rectangle this time, but just with a little spire in the back, and we'll see how that goes. Just seeing what I can get away with, you know, seeing what sort of little shapes and colors I can go for. I really love that little small spire there. I don't know why. There's just something about it that speaks to me. I really like it. That's where I was talking about, where you don't have to make all of it sort of the super tall flowers. You see how on the back I made the flowers tall, and then towards the wall I made the flowers, you know, shorter. I kept them at the first height, and so you know, that's part of the layering that you can do in this game, is that you can kind of layer things. Just like I made this hill here, for instance. I don't think, I mean, unless I'm like missing it or something like that, there's no really like smoothing tool with the height changer. It's like you just kind of have to like make a height, and you have to make a height that's like a little bit shorter, and like a height that's a little bit shorter. So it took me a second to like get sort of a semi-smooth hill going, but I figured it out, and it's looking pretty good. I figured, you know, not all of these roads have to connect perfectly. I was about to connect that road there, and then I was like, you know, I'm gonna stop here actually. I'm sure it's totally fine. Maybe people still walk through there, but maybe not enough people walk there that it made a pathway. So, you know, you have to have some pretty constant movement through an area in order to kill all the grass in an area. So, you know, you can still walk in a place and not kill the grass, obviously. So maybe there's an implied path over there in the back there that maybe a couple people take sometimes. But everything else around here is definitely a lot more well trodden over the years. I'm just loving the way this place is looking so far. It's just looking super cozy and super nice, and all of the colors are just fantastic, and the atmosphere is great. I love the hill. I love the water. I love all of the natural elements of the build, and the colors of the buildings just matching so well with the flowers and the grass and everything around it. It's just looking quite nice. Here I was just experimenting with maybe doing one of those roofs where, you know, you got the sort of brick on the sides there. I was like, maybe I can figure something out with this. I don't remember if I keep it or not. That's what I was experimenting with. I was trying to see if I could do something of the like. Oh, and there's what I was talking about earlier. See, you got the um, shutters, and then there's even like a little bit of a sort of like a towel or something like that just kind of hanging out the window too, which is really nice. I love all those little details, and it kind of makes it special whenever it's something that doesn't always happen either, you know? It's sort of a rare thing, and so whenever you do see it, you're like, yeah, I like that a lot. And here I just totally plop a spire over everything, just totally mess everything up, but you know what? I moved it, and then all of a sudden everything plopped back. No big deal. No need to stress out about anything. Just fix it up. 3 or 4 seconds. I'm just playing around with spires at this point. I really like the spires. They just add a little bit of that interest to the shape of the building and everything like that, and you know, adds extra roof lines, which, you know, extra roof lines always help when it comes to just adding interest to a building, and so you can add some more roof lines, and that goes with the dormers as well, you know, so you get some dormers in there, and all of a sudden it just makes the roof line a little bit more interesting. That's the idea, you know, is breaking up large spaces where there's not much going on, you know. So you don't want things to be too busy, because, you know, when things get too busy, it's just kind of ugly to look at, right? But you don't want to have large empty spaces, and so that's why, you know, you only place 2 windows. You don't place 4, you know. But you do place 2 windows because it gives you more roof lines, you know, it gives more visual interest, gives you more to look at. All of this is basic stuff, you know. I mean, it's like I don't need to explain it to you, but you know, it's fun to talk about. I like adding these fences just like sometimes, you know, like you'll see I'll add like a little bit of fence, and then I'll just kind of stop and just have like some empty space in between. I really like that. I think if I added fences everywhere on these paths, it would end up just looking a little bit too restricted. You want to, I suppose, guide the environments, but at the same time, not at the cost of freedom, you know? So you don't want to make everything too walled in. You know, you want people to be able to move around organically throughout your town. And so there's, like in everything, I suppose, that I've been talking about, there's, you know, a little bit of a balance, a little bit of a push and pull. And part of that balance is just placing fences sometimes, and then sometimes leaving gaps. This is one of the last of the sort of outskirts buildings that I'm going to build. I think There might be one, oh, there's definitely one more after this, but there might be two. I'm not entirely sure. There's two more or one more. But now that I'm saying that, watch, there's gonna be three more, and I'm just gonna be totally wrong. So we'll see. We'll be counting. This one's just a little small one on the outskirts, you know, just like maybe like a hunter lives here, you know, and it's just a little small building where they can have a bed and whatnot, and then they go out in the forest later and, you know, do what they need to do. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, you know. And the composition is just really turning out nice all of a sudden. You know, you get a couple of zoom out shots of the place and you're like, hey, you know, this place is coming together. Like, I've only, you know, been playing for what, 42 minutes? Because this is in real time. I haven't sped this up at all. So it's like, I logged into the game. This is the first save I started. And I've been playing for 42 minutes. And we got a town. Easy as that. You know, there's no problems whatsoever. You don't have to install any mods. You don't have to, you know, watch any tutorial videos or anything like that. You just get in, start placing stuff down, and all of a sudden, you know, you got a little build going. And so that's, I think, what the appeal of this game is. And I think if anybody is interested in playing artistic games or doing building or stuff like that, maybe you like playing Minecraft. I like playing Minecraft, you know, and you like building and stuff like that. I think if you're interested in these types of games, you should definitely pick it up, because this is one where you don't have to stress out at all. You can just build to your heart's content, and you can trust that in the end, it's probably going to look pretty good. So here, I wanted to try to build a bridge. So I figured, okay, I could probably build a building and stretch it out and make it really short, and then add some paths to it, and it'll make like stairs. Maybe I'll make it wood. I was kind of disappointed that when I made it wood, it still had a stone floor on it, but I do like the handrails. So that's what I was going for. I was like, I made all these water features. I got this like sort of river thing going here. It would be kind of a shame if I ended this build and I didn't have a bridge. So I need to build a bridge, but then if I'm going to build a bridge, I got to build, you know, some sort of building over there, some sort of reason for there to be a bridge. So I'm going to build one more building over there. And I figured, you know, I kind of wanted something a little bit extra about this bridge. It was a little bit too plain. So I was like, okay, what if I just do like some lampposts to sort of outline this area here, and perhaps the lampposts will add a little bit of visual interest. And I think it did work for sure. I think the lampposts definitely help sort of outline the bridge in a nice way. Wasn't really sure what I was going with at first when I built this. I was just kind of experimenting. I was like, okay, maybe I'll have some sort of patio here. Not sure. Gonna make a patio, draw out a little square, see what it looks like. Maybe make another square. Then I was like, nah, never mind. Never mind. That's too much. That's too much for a building on the outskirts. You know, I feel like you wanna build your fanciest buildings in the center, and then go a little bit more chill on the outskirts. At least that's how I see it. That's how at least I wanted to build this build particularly. Depending on the context, it can always change. There's always, you know, different variables that might change how you're thinking about something. But in this case, I was like, okay, I'm done with the fancy buildings, I suppose. All the stuff on the outskirts needs to be nice and simple for the most part. I really like how I was able to build this diagonal building as well. It was super easy too. You know, you just put them together and voila, you got a diagonal building. And it's really cozy. It's nice how it just kind of like, there's this little nook here in this front yard where this diagonal building lies, and it can be really nice to have a chair, you know, and sit outside and read a book or something like that, you know, do something relaxing. Especially with the weather being so nice as it is in this town right now. I'm sure it smells great with all the flowers around. You know, it's got a, you know, really fantastic flowers everywhere. So this would probably be a really nice place to just sort of relax. Now I'm just kind of filling up a lot of the empty space with flowers. I don't want to add too many buildings, you know, I don't want to make the place too busy. I gotta make sure to pay respect to nature a little bit, you know, and get some nature and things like that in there. I'm gonna make a little wall to separate that flower patch again. And there we go. I can just, you know, tastefully figure out where I want more trees to go. Maybe I'm gonna get some more flowers in the back there. Sometimes the flowers go through the world border like that, which I like. Helps blend things, you know. I think that's like the only thing that I can think of that goes past the world border. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're trying to blend with the world border, maybe add some flowers. But look at that. And we are done. Super pretty town. I might add a couple finishing touches. Yeah, let's see. I'm adding a couple trees and stuff like that, but yep. That's gonna be it. So let me know if you want to see more Tiny Glade content. I would love to make more videos on it if you guys are interested. But that's gonna be it for today. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. I'll see you all in the next one.